David Guttery is the Chief Executive Officer of InSource Financial Advisors of Lincoln, Nebraska. David Guttery and Seth Edgell are financial advisors who represent Emeritus Investment Company, LLC, and Emeritus Advisory Services. Please stay tuned through the end of the video for additional important disclosure information.
Hello everyone, I'm joined today by David Guttery, CEO of InSource Financial Advisors, to share his thoughts about the importance of investing and planning towards objective-driven goals. David, thanks so much for being with us today. In your previous video, you mentioned that it's unfortunate that strengthening economic data is being lost in the media noise that often comes with an election year. Today, I think you're going to describe how having a comprehensive approach to the management of wealth can help at times like these, correct?
Yes, I believe that having a comprehensive approach to the management of wealth enables someone to weather through periods of uncertainty and heightened media rhetoric. I mean, look, we go through this every 2 years, right? Right now, in my opinion, most of what you're hearing in the media is not actionable. It's rhetoric and sensationalism, and designed to influence how you think, how you feel, and hopefully the person for whom you'll vote. Within my previous video, I touched on quite a few of these economic metrics that continue to show tremendous strength, in my opinion, and that continue to grow in momentum. I would encourage your viewers to go back and watch that video again if they weren't able to see it the first time. It's posted to the Tribune website as well as our own website. But to your point, though, having a well-designed, comprehensive approach to wealth management helps to keep the focus on the long term and the achievement of goals and not on the sensationalism of the day. It helps to maintain perspective, and it certainly helps in the management of expectations.
David, can you describe how you begin the process of working with a new client? To some, the concept of planning the rest of their lives seems arduous. So what can someone expect as they enter into a planning engagement?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yes, I can describe that. First, we have what I would call the acquaintance meeting. Now, as the name implies, we are likely meeting for the first time and learning about the prospective client and describing what they can expect through a financial planning engagement. They begin to describe the goals to be codified within a plan, and we learn about their investor DNA, what makes them tick, what keeps them up at night, what has their story been up until this point, and how might we be able to partner with them to help turn those goals into reality. Now, if we mutually reach the conclusion that we can be of benefit, then we move into the orientation phase. And this is where we're gathering documents and other data for input into our planning platform. We're delivering industry-required disclosures at this point, and we're beginning to leverage our paraplanning team. From there, I'm working with members of our team to seek efficiency with regard to sequencing of income, for example. When might we claim Social Security? Do you start both streams of Social Security at one time? Do we start one early and claim half of that as the spousal benefit? Do we defer that income as long as we can until age 70? Do we begin taking from tax-favorable accounts first and deferring that which might be most taxable for as long as possible? Or do we turn conventional wisdom on its head and begin taking from the most taxable accounts first? As you might imagine, there is no one-size-fits-all approach to planning initiatives such as this. This is as unique as your thumbprint. There are many aspects such as this within the aggregation phase before we get to the first presentation, or what I call the workshop phase. And we may have one or several workshop meetings until we have finally landed on the iteration of the plan that best meets the client's objectives. And then from there, we move into the implementation phase.
That's pretty straightforward. It sounds like your team has developed a scripted approach to onboarding new clients in this planning process. So, David, once the final plan has been rendered, how do you go about implementing the plan?
I have used this analogy on many occasions. Think of me as a general contractor, and you need to build a room onto your house. Tell me about that room. Is it a spare bedroom, mother-in-law suite, garage, storage unit? The answer to that question will factor into what I recommend in terms of insulation, flooring, and the placement of electrical outlets. I can't build something without knowing what we're trying to build, It's important for a planner to have an open architecture toolbox, meaning I have no affinity to a particular tool and I have every tool imaginable at my disposal. It is equally important, though, for a planner to know when to use a tool and why and for how long. What is the one thing that each of these have in common? Clearly, they're all tools. The harder question, though, is which one's better? Well, obviously, that depends on the task at hand. If the objective is to drive a 10-penny nail, then I have a hammer for that. There's nothing wrong with the screwdriver, but it's not going to help much when it comes to the driving of a nail. Now, I'll take that analogy further, though, and ask that you describe the nature of the nail. See, I also have a sledgehammer, a ball-peen hammer, claw hammer, tap in a countersink. If we're driving a finishing nail, I'm not going to offer you the sledgehammer. That would be overkill. Implementing a plan first requires that I be a fiduciary in every sense of the word and agnostic to the product or the platform. Each tool brings a unique utility to the plan. Very often, plans are implemented using a myriad of products across multiple platforms. When was the last time you finished a home improvement project with only a hammer? Mutual funds, exchange-traded funds, stocks, bonds, options, structured notes, annuities, insurance products, they're all tools, and they are uniquely designed to provide a utility in the completion of a comprehensive plan. If you don't need what the tool provides, leave it in the box. That's how we implement a plan, though. We've identified what we're trying to accomplish, and within the parameters that are unique to that client, then we open our toolbox and apply the hammer, pliers, screwdrivers, and any other tools that we need to the degree that they're needed.
Again, very straightforward. And that makes a lot of sense. So far, I don't think I've heard anything overly burdensome or arduous about the planning process. Okay, so David, you have prepared the plan and implemented the plan. Then what comes next?
Oh, that's where the fun begins. That's where our perpetual service model begins. Each quarter, we meet with our clients and we review what we did, why we did it, and why it was better than any other combination of tactics and tools that we could have used. This is one of many ways that I demonstrate my fiduciary approach to planning. I'll give you an analogy on that, but first I want to draw a reference to this graphic. No one ever conducted a Google search and picked the name out of the ether and said to themselves, I'm going to divulge my life story to this stranger. It doesn't work that way. We're not in the sales business, we're in the trust business. On this graphic in the upper left, notice the order of things. It starts with trust. With that trust, we come to have a relationship. Through that relationship, the client comes to have confidence in our abilities, and until they do, it really doesn't matter what we know. Knowledge is fourth, and I didn't even list product on this graphic. Furthermore, consider the concentric circles. If you put everyone that you've ever met in your life on the outer circle, you'd realize that you know very little about these people. You may recognize them by face, but that's about it. As you move closer to the center, however, there are fewer and fewer people in those circles. The relationships become more personal and you know more about these people. Within the center circle, we often find only the husband and wife. This is where personal and confidential information lives, and before my plan can be of any actionable benefit, the client has to welcome me into that circle. That's the easy part. Hard part's staying there. The minute I give a client reason to doubt welcoming me into that center circle, well, then I'll be excused from it. Okay? This is why we meet with our clients every quarter. That relationship grows through constant contact and communication, attention to detail, understanding that life isn't static and it changes. So too must the plan. If a client never hears from me again, then how are we validating the trust and expanding on our relationship? Now, this may be getting more into the weeds than for which you were asking, but I think it's a salient point. Do financial planners sell products? Sure, at a rudimentary level. But consider the difference between a retail environment or an investment advisory planning engagement. So I recently bought this thing. I knew exactly what I wanted, where I could find it, walked into the store, found it on the shelf, took it to the counter, gave my credit card to that person, and walked out with the item in the bag. Were it not for the name badge on the salesperson's shirt, I would have never even known their first name. I have no idea where they're from, where they went to school, to whom they're married, what are their fears, hopes, dreams, aspirations. I don't know. I know absolutely nothing about that person, but I bought something from them. When it comes to client engagement, I know all of that information. I know when their children are going to complete school. I know whose family is going through a crisis. I know what keeps my clients up at night. I not only know their family history, but their extended family history. We engage their beneficiaries and we truly know our clients in great detail. Did I place an ETF into their portfolio? Sure. I look at that as a financial solution to a plan that these clients trusted me to build, not a sale. As for the analogy to which I drew reference earlier, as it pertains to ongoing client service models, I reflect upon the 16 years that I spent coaching Youth League basketball. To borrow a phrase from the late Gene Hackman and the movie Hoosiers, my practices weren't designed for your enjoyment. We had some very successful teams, and I made sure that my players understood that the difference between the team cutting the net down and the team watching them do it came down to one more dribble drill, one more three-man weave, 50 more free throws on the driveway, doing something over and over again until it becomes repetitive and you no longer had to think about the mechanics of the action. As it pertains to the planning relationship, we meet quarterly and we review what we did, why we did it, and why it was better than anything else we could have done over and over again. Clients need to be deeply integral and involved in this process, and the only way that happens is if we have a perpetual and consistent review of the plan and the basis behind the recommendations, and observation of account performance and plan execution. This cements the relationship, strengthens the trust bond, draws focus upon knowledge and competence, and it takes product completely out of the equation. In closing, this is how we get clients through media sensationalism and difficult economic periods of time and market volatility. They know that we have a trusted financial fiduciary planner who built a strategy that remains in constant contact with the team that is constantly adjusting for variance and keeping them integral in the conversation. This restores the focus to the long-term fruition of the goals and redirects attention away from that big, bright red number staring back at you on the television screen sometimes.
David, thank you for this explanation. And while planning can be a complex process, it seems that you and your team have developed a strategy for demystifying and simplifying the process. So thank you again for joining us. And for additional information, David may be reached through the means listed upon the following screen. For InSource Financial Advisors, I'm Brannon Dawkins.
David Guttery and Seth Edgell independently offer securities and investment advisory services through Emeritus Investment Company, LLC, member FINRA, SIPC, and Emeritus Advisory Services. Information provided in today's segments is gathered from sources believed to be reliable. However, its accuracy cannot be guaranteed and should not be interpreted as tax or legal advice. Any performance stated is past performance and is not indicative of future results.